All right, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Arizona Primate Endeavor. This one doesn't have any field footage, so just stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff I want to cover. It's about different things that I've seen. I scour the internet. I watch all kinds of television about Bigfoot programs and things like that. I just wanted to go over a few things. First of all, I want to talk about the Patterson gimlet footage. A lot of people say it's fake. A lot of people say it's not. So my thoughts were, if you were going to hoax a Bigfoot video and you're going to ride into the forest for days, it took them days to get out there, basically. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin took them days to get out there where they were going. If you were going to hoax that video, why would you make it all shaky? I mean, wouldn't you set your tripod up and get all ready for it so it's nice and smooth as that thing walks by? If you watch the unstabilized version of that film, you would see that it's all over the place. Because when they first came upon this creature, Bob Gimlin said that Roger Patterson was on his horse and he was kind of sliding down this slope on the horse. And when he saw the creature, he was fumbling in his pack to try to get his camera out as he was sliding off the horse and kind of sliding down the hill and trying to film at the same time. So that's why the original film, you see it's kind of bumpy. And then he finally stabilized himself on a log as much as he could to get that footage. And that's when you see the footage somewhat less bumpy, you know. So, I mean, you're not going to be ready with your camera 100% of the time. And not to mention, if you see something like that in the wild, your adrenaline's probably pumping like crazy. So it's like, you know, you're probably shaking with the camera in your hand, you know, because you're looking at an 8-foot gorilla, you know, in the wild, and you've got nothing to protect you but your sidearm. Hope that's enough. Now, why, if you were going to fake that film, why would you make it all bumpy like that? Wouldn't you put your camera up on a tripod and try to get stable footage if you were going to fake it? That's just my thought anyway. I used to think it was fake too until I saw another video, and here's why. If you look at the Patty film, which is the Patterson Gimlin footage, they're saying it's a female, but where you look at it, for lack of a better term, I mean, where the butt is, it looks like it's kind of flat underneath, like, you know, someone in a suit and the legs sticking out from, because the butt looks kind of flat, and it looked kind of odd to me. Kind of boxy looking, you know, with almost like a leg sticking out of a boxy looking butt. But then I saw another video, a totally different video done a lot of years later, where a supposed mother Bigfoot, she's behind a big boulder, and you can see she picks up a baby and then starts walking, and her butt, how it squared off like that on the Patty film, it looked exactly like this one where the one's picking up the baby. Exactly like it. Even the posture and the shape of the thing, it showed from the opposite side, but it looked identical to the Patterson Gimlin footage as far as the body of the creature. Now there's another thing I want to talk about. There's another show I saw. There were some Bigfoot researchers and scientists sitting around a table discussing Bigfoot and whatnot. And Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, he's a renowned scientist who had lots of footprint castings and lots of information about Bigfoot. He solemnly believed in Bigfoot just by the information that was brought to him by other people. He passed away last year, unfortunately, rest his soul. He was a good guy. But they were analyzing the Patterson Gimlin footage, the Patty footage, the stabilized version, where they moved each frame to where you could see the thing walking smoothly instead of the frame bouncing around. And they showed that Patty's breasts were actually moving. You could see them swaying forward and backward, unlike a costume, you know. So as she walked, you could see them swaying forward and backward. And then when they showed the bottom of the foot when it stepped up like this, and you could see the bottom of the foot, you could see the details of the toes. Which, I mean, if somebody's going to make a costume, that's a lot to go into to make details of toes like that. I mean, you know, even back then in the 60s, They didn't do that. Even for the Planet of the Apes, they didn't do that, on their costumes. So anyway, the scientists made a fake breast mold, like the chest plate with the breasts on it, with materials that would have been available in the 60s, and they attached it to a board, and they tried to replicate the movement of the breast like they saw in the video, and they couldn't replicate it. And that's the stuff that would have been available back then as far as making a costume, and it was too solid. It wouldn't move like the breasts on the Patterson-Gimlin footage. Yeah, they just couldn't replicate the same movement. The model breasts were just too stiff. So, that's what was available back then. So I don't know, unless somebody figured out some other way to make these things swing like natural breasts. Who knows? Okay, as far as the broken trees, I have a theory. What made me think about this was that when a dog uses the bathroom, when he goes number 2 on the ground, a dog will scratch their claws after they go to the bathroom. They'd use number 2 on the ground. They scratch the ground with their claws. What they're doing when they do that, when they scratch the ground, is they're releasing pheromones from between their toes on the ground. It's kind of like they mark the territory, basically, so other dogs can smell their pheromones and to let other dogs know this is my territory, basically. So that's how dogs do. Besides, when they, lift their leg and a little bit of pee comes out, it's not like they're actually urinating. They're marking their territory, basically. Maybe when these Sasquatches are, if they exist, when they break these trees, maybe they're releasing pheromones from their hands or their feet or something between their toes or whatever to kind of mark their territory like a dog does. Maybe putting some of their musk around the area to show the other Bigfoots that this is my area, And if you find one of these and you're, Bigfoot enthusiast or not Bigfoot enthusiast, if you think that a Sasquatch may have done this, bring a sterile cloth with you in a plastic bag or something and put some rubber gloves on, take that cloth out and wipe all over that tree, where you think he might have touched it. Wipe it all up, put it back in the bag and zip it closed and put it in your freezer until you can take it to somebody and have it forensically tested to see if there's any DNA on it. And maybe do the same thing to these tree structures where you see these teepee-looking things with all these sticks and big trees leaning like a teepee. And a man can't lift that log because it's, 400-pound log leaning up, or actually balancing in. I've seen one where there was one balancing in these trees, and it was a huge log. It was like it would have took 3 or 4 people to lift that up, and it was higher than a human could reach. So how does that happen? And it's not like it happened in nature because the end was snapped off. It wasn't like there wasn't roots coming out of it or anything like that. It was snapped off and it was placed up there. It wasn't like there were no trees around that would have fallen on top of it. So it was brought there, put up there. Try to get some DNA from that, or a nest. If you find a nest that you think is a Sasquatch nest. Which brings me to my next epiphany. I've seen some Bigfoot shows where they submitted DNA that they suspected was from a Bigfoot. They sent it to a lab, supposedly, and the results came back inconclusive because they were contaminated with human DNA. Okay, my question is, when somebody's killed and they find DNA on this person, and they know it's DNA from more than one person, they can separate that DNA and tell the 2 different DNA strands, 2 different people. So they could tell, if it were you or me, they could tell us apart from that DNA. Even if they were mixed, they can separate it to get a separate sequence from each person. So why can't they separate the DNA of the human being from the DNA of what they suspect might be a Bigfoot if they're saying they can't tell what it is because it's contaminated with human DNA? Well, separate that human DNA and whatever's left, tell me what it is. If it's 99% human, but you can't match it to any other human genome in the world, what else is it? It just kind of feels like the people testing it are kind of hiding something. Or maybe they're afraid their reputation might be tarnished for acknowledging a Bigfoot. Or maybe they were threatened by the powers that be. You never know. Okay, next subject. Yeti in the Himalayas. There was a show on Animal Planet, I believe it was Yeti or not, and this English gentleman And this guy who actually photographed tracks in the Himalayas, he's an English guy too, but he's an elder gentleman. They took a trek up to the Himalayas. So they were trying to find proof of the Yeti, basically, with DNA, basically. So it was an English gentleman, a Russian lady who was a DNA specialist, and an elder English gentleman. I don't remember if he went with them as far up the mountain, because one of their Sherpas actually had to go be airlifted out. If you've seen the show, he had to be airlifted out because of altitude sickness. So yeah, he was in pretty dire straits, so they had to air flight him out of there. But they went into the as far as they could, trek in there, and they found a pool of water way up in there, where it's very, very, very unlikely that another human had been within, probably years or months, or at least months, but years probably. And the Russian lady who was a DNA specialist, took samples from there, put them in a bag, and then they found some odd footprints too. So they took some samples of snow from the footprints and put it in bags and went back to their camp. They melted the snow from that, ran it through a filter so they could get DNA sequence. Took the water from the pool, ran that through a filter so they could get DNA sequence too. And the water from the snow from the footprints turned out to be like a type of ram that is not usually known to be in that area. It's in another country, but not necessarily known to be in that area. So, and this thing, I think they said gets up to 600 pounds. Huge, huge thing. So that's what the footprints were from. But in the water, they tested that, and there was some DNA that came back 99% human. But here's the caveat. The genome did not match any human on the planet. So either there's another human tribe out there way up in these mountains that just happened to be in that area, or maybe the Yeti shares 99% of its DNA with humans. Maybe that's the same with the Bigfoots here in the U.S. Maybe they share a larger portion of their DNA with humans than chimpanzees do, because chimpanzees, they share 98% with us. So maybe Bigfoot shares 99%, or maybe even higher. And that's why they keep getting these samples from the U.S. coming back as human contamination. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's their DNA is just that close to us that it looks like human. That's just the theory. As far as that sample they got out of the pool, they said that DNA in water only lasts for like a week to 2 weeks. So it's highly unlikely that a human had been up there within 2 weeks from them getting there. Beside that, there probably more than likely would have been human footprints in the snow around there. Other than that goat they found, there would have been human footprints, within 2 weeks, I would imagine. Not to mention that it didn't match any human genome known to science, which, DNA only lasts 2 weeks and, before it degenerates, and I don't know. Makes you wonder. Okay, my last little thing I want to note is gorillas. The tallest gorilla ever recorded was a male western lowland gorilla named George, who stood 6 feet 6 inches tall. Folks, I'm 6'1", and people are always saying, man, you're tall. 6 feet 6, and that's just a gorilla. I mean, the reports of Bigfoots and whatnot, they're saying 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall and even taller. So, if a gorilla in the Congo can be 6'6" and weigh 600 pounds or more, if a gorilla's 8 foot tall, it could easily weigh 1,000 pounds or more maybe. These gorillas are native to the Congo Basin and several other countries in Africa, like 6 different countries in Africa. But the Congo Basin's kind of like right in the central Africa. And I looked at the terrain there on Google Earth, and it looks like the Pacific Northwest. I mean, if you put them side by side, you found a forested area, and you put them side by side from the aerial view anyway, they look pretty close. These lowland gorillas, they thrive in mountainous areas, secondary forests, and lowland swamps, just like you hear here in the U.S. So, but they're particularly in the Congo where they have the largest population. So their diet consists of 67% fruit off 100 tree species. They also eat leaves, stems, fiber, termites and ants, flowers, bark, pith, which is like the center of most plants, like a chewy part of the stem. It's a tissue in the tissue called the medulla. It's in the center of the trunk, or the center of the stem, and it's edible to most. They're omnivores, but they mostly live on a plant-based diet. And the reason I bring that up is because there's a lot of that stuff in the Pacific Northwest, northern Arizona, along the Mogollon Rim up here. There's a lot of these things there too. Not only that, you could literally, probably any time of year, but mostly in the summer, you could go in the forest and you rake back the leaves all the way down to the ground, and you're going to see bugs. So, you know, they eat bugs. Gorillas eat bugs, monkeys eat bugs. Why wouldn't a great ape here in the U.S.? Again, I'm not saying they do exist. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I'm just giving a good argument as to what they could survive on, because, you know, people saying all the time, oh, there's not enough out there for them to live on. But if you've ever been to, like I said, I used to haul boats all over the country. I had to go to a place called Bullfrog, Utah, and it's on the north side of the lake. And there's a ferry that takes you from the Arizona side over to it, but my trailer was too long, my truck was too big to go on that ferry, so I had to drive like 150 miles out of the way to go around and come back down on the north side of the lake there, Lake Powell. And on my way there, it's more desert than it is any woods or anything like that. But I saw the largest amount of deer that I've ever seen in my life. Literally hundreds of deer. I don't know what type they were, because I'm not a hunter or anything like that. But literally hundreds of them. I was so scared because months before that, I had hit a deer and he ripped my fender off my truck. A big buck, actually, about the size of a horse. But I saw so many deer going to Bullfrog, Utah, that I had to drive like 30 miles per hour on the highway because I was afraid one of them was going to dart out in front of me. And they were on both sides of the highway. I'd never seen so many deer in one place in my life. And that's another argument. I mean, deer, they live off grass and stuff like that. But you got to figure, I don't know, what's a deer weigh? 400 to 600 pounds, you know, maybe less, 200 to 600. But still, in a human, for our muscles to grow, we need a lot of protein. These things get that big and they're all muscle. They're getting protein from, you know, everything they eat out there. So why couldn't an omnivore like a great ape do the same? You know, I'm just saying. A little something to think about. So anyway, we're going to try to go out. This is January 2026. I think it's the 3rd. Yeah, Saturday, January 3rd, 2026. See how I spend my Saturday nights? The end of this month, I got a buddy, Roger. He's got a 5th wheel. We're going to go out and camp. I'm not going to tell you where because I don't want anybody going out there making any knocks to mess with us. But we're going to go camp up somewhere where supposedly he had heard from people he knows, because he stays up north in the Payson area with his friends sometimes, so he knows a lot about the area. There's an area he's pretty sure there's a family of Bigfoot up there, so we're going to take his fifth wheel. We're going to camp up there for a couple days, barbecue, hopefully some steaks. Yes. Let that waft out into the forest and lure him in. We're going to bring all the infrared, the night vision, parabolic mic, a couple cameras. We're going to see what we can find. So stick around for that episode. I'm really excited about that one. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about it. And if you know anybody who's had an encounter here in Arizona, or knows somebody who has, and they're willing to talk to us or let me interview them, please leave a comment down below, or you can email us at arizonaprimateendeavor@gmail.com. Thanks, and have a great day.